welcome to Casting the Spotlight episode number 176. And first time in a few weeks, just the two of us again.
Yeah.
And hope everybody's doing well out there. Had a great WrestleMania, a great NFL draft.
A lot of stuff happened there for a couple weeks.
It did. And we'll get into the draft a little bit later and everything. Obviously, like we did the draft episode, and then we can kind of follow up with some of the big moves. And
we were live for most of the first round.
Yeah. But we also got The Walking Dead Dead City Season 2 coming out, starting May the 4th, and I guess it'll air through towards the end of June. So it's been, I guess, a couple of years. Yeah, because before, whenever Kyle came on for his 4th episode, we talked Dead City because we're like, oh, this would be a good time. We've been talking about these spin-offs for a while and everything, and we kind of wanted to see how they all played out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I almost feel like I need to rewatch some of season 1. It's so hard to keep up, just like all the content that I'm just like, because I watched season 1, but I feel like I've already almost forgotten at this point because I watched it the one time as it was airing live.
Yeah, Dead City.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I'd seen. That's been the longest since I've watched any of it out of any of the seasons. Because then I watched Daryl a little later.
I haven't even seen any season 2.
And then I watched season 2 of Daryl, and Daryl Dixon was. I thought that was a pretty solid show. And I thought the second one got better. And I think if I rewatched the Dead City over, I might like it too. Because then I could just binge it and get it all done in a matter of hours or a couple days. But I'm pretty pumped for season 2 though, because it looks like we could see at least shades of the old Negan, or I don't think this is necessarily going to be legitimate though. Like, he might be serving a purpose, but I think it's kind of a ruse. I don't think it's truly who he is again, even if he plays that part. Yeah. But he's good at playing that part.
He is.
So, well, fuck. This or that. We drew Walking Dead seasons tonight. First time. There's just enough seasons as well to compare them all to one. So we're gonna have to go. This is one of those times we're gonna have to go through all the same ones in different orders and different main measuring stick category, or well, I guess the one. So each of us have a season prepared against the gauntlet. So, I guess I'll give it the first go here.
First, yeah.
We talked a little bit about it, and I know that since we watched it together, and we've watched a good bit of it outside of just that. So, I would say for my main season, it's going to be season 4.
Okay.
Season 4, Walking Dead.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Oh no.
I don't want it to get slapped. It's not gonna get slapped.
Oh no. I thought that was the one you picked for me.
No.
Okay.
No.
We'll see. Yeah, then we're good. No, we're good. Still a great season. Part of that initial run that really didn't miss a beat, for a long time until I think the season 5 maybe premiere, or maybe it was The Day Will Come and You Won't Be. There was 2 more record-setting ones after that that drew an insane number, and the season 4 premiere was just lights out. And obviously, that was the tail end of the prison time in the series. So first up, we've got that season 4, and then basically the second half is obviously to lay the scale, the setting for the audience. After they get demolished in the prison, and the governor comes and knocks, "I got a tank." And he knocked everybody out of there. The group is just kind of wondrously running around, either trying to find each other or just find their footing, and then they all, pivot towards, seeing terminus signs on the train tracks and beyond, and then they all start kind of heading there because maybe they think the rest of them will, which most of them do, and they're right. Some of the people don't make it there.
Yeah.
But that's the gist of a lot of the
plan.
Yeah, of the setting of season 4 for sure. I mean, you would think at least to meet up, but those people are not trustworthy once they got there. So we're gonna do season 4 versus season 8, which is the war season with the Saviors, which is
like I said,
this is a hard one right off the bat, to be honest.
I feel like I liked the Savior stuff a lot more than. I feel like a lot of people shit on it for some
Dude,
reason.
a lot of people
I
love
feel like
Negan.
that was
But no,
I feel like that was like a great part of the show in a lot of ways, but a lot of people did not care for it. I thought bad guy Negan, good guy Negan, we all loved that he had the turnaround. Like his relationship with Judith, that he's helping out with the community, trying to win over Maggie. Like he's trying to do good, You saw more of his heart with his flashback episode and like all that stuff. But like bad guy Negan was just like so damn charismatic. It was just such a good time. And yeah, just the story that was told throughout that season. It was like Carl's death, and then they decide not to kill him. Because of Carl, pretty much, and to save him. And Maggie does not like that. And
they had a bunch of battles, and Shiva died.
There's a lot of war.
A lot of the kingdom got obliterated towards the end of season 8. Like they went there and just fucking laid waste. Or they like shot. I forget exactly what they did to do it. Maybe they just shot a lot of them. Yeah. And Jerry and Ezekiel were the only people that survived.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the kingdom was kind of a dope place too.
Yeah. Some of those motherfuckers needed to go though. Some of them acted like whenever Negan would come to collect, they'd be like, "Oh, you gotta do it this way," and stuff and shit. And some of them were goofs, but obviously Zeke is a powerful character, and Jerry was funny, and
Jerry just seemed like Jerry was a guy that. If the apocalypse was real, I would want to spend as much time around Jerry as I could. He just seemed
definitely
like a great dude.
Yeah, well, and he literally feels like he would be a really safe person to be around. In that situation, really, or any else. Just to... Because he's, warm-hearted and just kind of, laughing most of the scenes. But, yeah, he's a big dude.
Guy. He's kind of a protective guy.
He's kind of, in a way, the bodyguard, but also friend of...
But Zeke can handle himself, too. Yeah. He's a badass. I'm going to pick season 8.
Yeah. I love season 8. I mean, I love both of them, but, I don't know. Is that first... The thing is that first 8 episodes, including the governor's backstory and what happened in season 4 between, after, Woodbury, a lot of those people came to the prison, and then they had, a whole thing organized between season 3 and 4. There was, actually 6 months on live television that passed, but also 6 months in real time in the show that passed between season 3 and 6, to where they're growing all crops and everything. And a few characters like Daryl and Michonne were Rick wanted to just kind of move on from it, but they were no, this dude's still out there. Daryl and Michonne were both kind of weary, and they would go looking for him on their own during that time, before season 4 happened. And then obviously, if you remember the beginning of season 4. There was a virus that got in the prison, and then a lot of people got infected and got killed. So, a lot of the people from Woodbury did pass in that. I think that was just an easy excuse to get rid of them, too, because they're oh, some of these people don't even know. We'll put the ones of note.
They're we can't be, this is way too many people to pay. We don't have that kind of budget yet.
No. So they're we'll make the ones of note, and we'll have them around for at least a few episodes. But yeah, season 4, I feel that first 8 episodes were phenomenal. That fucking arc, leading into the end of the prison. That was some of the best in the show. That we were watching that day.
Yeah.
And watching over, I should say. But it's amazing. And then they show what the hell the governor had done in 2.5 episodes.
So the prison and the governor story was another one of some of my favorite stuff in the series.
Mm-hmm.
Really was. Season 3 was, I mean, I'm not giving anything away really, but it really was one of my favorite seasons.
Yeah.
It was
so good.
It was it's just a really strong season.
Yeah.
And it was the governor in a lot of ways, I liked a lot of the villains in the show. Like, I like the Whispers, I like Pope, like, I liked a lot of the villains, Negan, obviously, but, like, Negan and the Governor almost felt like the strongest villains, like, with the longest arcs, you know, throughout the series. Like, they got a couple seasons, pretty much.
Yeah.
Then their story in the war was kind of, like, told.
And, I mean, Negan's, like, still alive, so he's, like... Who saw that coming?
He turned to the light side.
Yeah. He's had such a run. But you're going to go with 8 over 4?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, well, next up, we got Season 4 or Season 1. What began it all. It's important to point out, a significantly shorter season than most of the show, because it's only got 6 episodes, and that was just one of the deals that they would do, is like, because the first Breaking Bad season was only like 7 episodes, too. Before, I guess they want to see how the ratings go, so they tell their story, and then that's how at least the shows would be. Nowadays, sometimes you're signed on immediately to like a bigger one, or you could maybe tell your story, and some people do it in like 8 episodes or whatever instead, just with longer episodes. But
yeah, it was.
What began it all.
It really did kind of like set the ground for everything to come. So, in that aspect, you can't really, like, it was very important for the series. The last episode, when they got to the lab and stuff, that was like, that was a pretty damn good episode.
Yeah. Well, it was like...
Last episode of the season 1.
It really made a lot of people ponder, like, in real time, too. They're like, okay, this is a real situation, and you could either... He's like, you're not going to feel a thing. Like, it'll be over in one instant instead of, you know, or you could keep trying out there. And, like, it's a real kind of question. Like, remember Jackie stayed behind, and she, like, let herself get blown up. It was just...
I mean, like...
What she wanted to do.
If the scientist of the CDC is basically, like... If he's just being square with you and being like, listen, it's fucking over. Like... There ain't nothing we're going to be able to do. You might as well call it a day. That was like in The Last of Us, dude. I'm not like anybody who's watching that. Great show. But like the lady that first kind of like starts breaking out over in Asia and stuff. And this scientist starts kind of working with it in the lab. And she realizes what's happening and how it spreads and how it's just air and like this, and she's just like, oh, this is gonna be quick. And like she makes a statement and is like, oh, you know, we need to do all this, and she's like saying all this stuff like be protective and this and that and whatnot, and she like gets all the important people in a room like after she makes her statement to the public and like makes everything okay. She like gets everybody in a room and she's like, civilization's over. She's like, you need to. She's like, if you really want to try to save humankind, you need to gate off this city right now and bomb it. Kill everybody in here. Because that's the only way you're stopping this thing.
Yeah, that's a good point though. It just happens, like the Planet of the Apes thing too. Like it just one person, then that person takes it to another country, and then they breathe on people, and it's just shit. If it's like deadly, in theory, like those shows and series and everything.
Yeah.
You're done. Like it eventually gets there. Well, like that's the whole thing about The Walking Dead.
That stuff is scary.
Long term, that is still the question everyone would want to know. How the fuck did this thing start in this world? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We never and not that was the only thing we wanted to know, but that was one of the long, Eugene in season 5, really season 4 when you met him, but into season 5 was playing the part of like being a scientist and I know some classified information, and he couldn't tell anybody, and then that turned out to be a lie. But then he figured out how to make bullets in season 8 and shit, and then he, just kind of saved everybody. So yeah, I don't know. Eugene, he had a lot of things that were, yeah.
But you know what?
For sure.
Fuck. Okay. I don't hate Eugene.
You gonna go with?
I'm going season 4.
Okay, season 4.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's one on the board for 4. And next up, we've got season 4, or it's predecessor, season 3.
Yeah, I mean, they
were a lot. They were a similar vibe in a lot of
intertwined,
ways.
yeah.
You know, I mean, of course, but
it was sort of
every
the
season's
Woodbury War kind of stuff and the going on.
every season's beginning feels like some of the last one's end, or the, you know what I mean, or it just kind of, it does a good job at translating. See, that's what always pissed me off, is like, if you're gonna do time jumps, I at least want to know how long it was. You know what I mean? And they were kind of weird about that through the first, like, you didn't really know, and then they took that significant one in 9 after Rick, got taken, and it was like, Jesus.
Yeah, that was something.
But yeah. Anyway.
I mean, like I said, I think I'm gonna have to go season 3 though. It was one of my favorite seasons for sure.
Yeah.
I'd have to look back to like see how I really ranked it. It might be my favorite season.
Yeah.
But
it's strong. It is one of the highest rated ones for sure. And that's the one that a lot of people were really starting to watch, like after the first. I mean, in season 2, it already built upon what season 1 had. By the time it aired, though, there was a lot of people that read those comics. Like, it got a great premiere. Like, it had a great turnout in the first season. I mean, it wasn't obviously what it became, but it was like, for what it had in its lore, all that existed of it, like, it did great the first season. And then, they just built upon that.
yeah.
I mean, they at least increased their views from season 2 to, like, from season 1 to 2 by, like, 50%. And, I mean, it went up. And then after that, it, like, fucking damn near doubled. Or, well, maybe not quite that, but it was getting up there. But, yeah,
It was a hot show for a while.
It was.
I mean, we were even kind of saying off air, but even the later seasons when, it was kind of just like the loyalists and the real fans that were still into it and watching, like, those seasons are still good. There's not like a bad season really of the show. Like, some of the later ones were a little longer and more choppy and stuff like that, but it was still like, it had me wanting to tune in week to week.
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest draws to me in the earlier seasons is the sheer apocalyptic threat that, like, the walkers were.
Yeah.
And, like, the way, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's, like, one of the big draws, because it's like, oh, damn, like, I mean, I like whenever they fight with groups and people and stuff like that, too, but it was really cool to see just how that would work, you know what I mean? Like, if a lot of people were essentially, like, zombified and there was no coming back, and, how you were going to survive the threat and kind of hoard down and be able to find food.
I mean, it would kind of play out like that, too, because there would be a period where it was kind of just like, you build small communities, you find people that you can trust, and then it's like,
and then that breaks
you have
down.
to fight other people, and there's bad people out there, there's raiders, there's rapists, there's murderers, there's just like, you have to fight off all this shit, and then, like, after a certain period of time of just, like, kind of primal, you start to build back civilization.
After, at first, there would be a lot of tiny little groups of people just all over trying to survive. But, like, I would say a year to 3 in, that's when the big groups are starting to form, because a lot of people got eliminated or they joined a group, and you know what I'm saying. Then, like, and that lines up too, because with Woodbury and everything else, I want to say Woodbury was about 9 months into. And most of those people were just community people. Like, they had an army, but, like,
and that's the
most of
thing
them
too,
were not a threat. They just didn't know behind closed doors that their governor was actually, like,
a villain.
a villain. Yeah.
It's kind of like, that's the thing too that I like. What made Negan such a good villain, I thought, throughout the Savior War, was like, he was a villain because we followed the group we followed. Like, if you followed the Saviors or you followed his journey, he was not the villain. Like, they came and they killed a bunch of his people while they were sleeping.
They did.
He just retaliated. He killed a couple people in front of him, and he's like, don't do this shit again. You know, I mean, he did take from them after and stuff like that, so that was kind of fucked up. But, like, it was all a matter of perspective when it came to that villain. You know what I mean? And the governor wasn't really that way, but it kind of felt similar in the way where like you saw a side of him that was like, yeah, this guy has a lot of like hate in him, and he's an evil dude, but he's not all evil. You know,
like the governor was kind of
he cared about the people, but he was willing to put them, you know, at harm for like his personal beef, basically.
Do you remember when he fucking, in the season 3 finale, when he like, they pissed him off because they're like, oh, we need to go back there, and some of the people were like, oh, we're not going to go back there, they killed my boy, they blah blah blah, and he just got really pissed, and he was with Martinez, the you know, his buddy, like Latino guy, kind of ripped, and then like, Shumpert, the black guy that he was with, like those 3 guys. So like they were kind of like their own little unit. So like not those 2, but everybody else, which is like 15 or 20 other people, they were all like, should we go back or should we not? And they were bitching and stuff. And the governor just wanted like Rick's group eliminated. So that was like one of his psychotic moments too. He just fucking took the gun and just sprayed all of his own people with it. And like Martinez and Shumpert were like, they were like, fuck. I'm glad he didn't, you know. So they didn't really say anything, but they were both like, just had no idea.
That's kind of when they realized, though, too. They're like, oh, can't follow this dude.
Because remember, later that day or a few days later, they had tents all together, and then the governor woke up a few days later, and like neither of their tents were there, and they left him alone because they were probably like, how the fuck can we get away from this dude? But
I mean, yeah, once you see him do that, you're like, yeah, I'm out of here.
And that was his own fucking
yeah.
And like nobody did anything. They were just like complaining, and they're like, "Oh, we should go back or we shouldn't." But the governor was just so filled with rage.
Just later that day, like still being with that guy. Oh, well, you guys want to try to get dinner or something?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, those were like
be with this guy.
Karen, who was Tyrese's girlfriend, who was eventually burned like by Carol in the beginning of season 2. Somebody dragged them out here and set them on fire.
Yeah, dude, Carol did some wild shit.
Carol's a great character though. She had from the like point she began though.
She pisses me off sometimes though. I'm like, Carol, what are you doing?
She's gotta have.
She's frustrated.
She's
sometimes.
Probably had the most dynamic arc of anybody in the show though. Like in terms of the way she started to now. So you're taking 3 over 4.
Yeah.
All right. So right now, season 4 is got 1 up on it, 2-1. Next up, we got season 4 or season 10, which obviously was an extension with those 6 episodes, one being the prequel. Most of it still being the Whisper War, but I think Alpha was eliminated. So if it had only been 16, which were normal up until then.
Alpha, yeah, she was eliminated before Beta.
She might have been like the mid-season finale-ish or later in season 10, which would have been like 8. But they didn't know they were going to add those extra 6. So you got to think their plan was just to have 16, and then because of COVID, they added the 6 onto it.
Beta dude had one of my favorite deaths in the show.
Yeah, his was sick.
Stabbing his eyes out and then just like letting himself go to the walkers and shit. Where he got his eyes stabbed out, right? Yeah,
because I think Daryl stabbed him in both eyes.
Just kind of embraced his end. Basically,
yeah.
That was just it was a dope shot.
It was, and that was the that was episode 16. That was the one we watched live. That was dope though. At least getting to watch one of them like that year because by the time we caught up, people were still bitching. They're like the finale still never got released, and we're like, well, at least we're caught up now. And we're like, oh, October 4th, we're fucking tuning in. But that was sick.
Dope. That was a good fall.
It was a treat, really, because like we kind of missed some of those other ones like later, that season that it aired. But we had gotten all caught up, including me, who was behind for a while at that point, actually, over a year. And so we watched The one, it was like an hour and a half. It was like an extended episode too, and I was like, that actually was like, it felt like an event because it was like a one-off until the new, like the next 6 came out.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like basically that was the total end of the Whisper War.
Yeah.
That 16th one that aired.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously the Negan prequel at the end of season 10 was fantastic too.
It was. Some of those episodes were weird though.
Yeah, there was some weak ones in there.
Yeah.
Especially
3 of those 6.
The COVID ones were like, oh man, come on. But like, it was still nice to have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
During COVID, like, oh, we got new content dropping during this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like the same thing with wrestling. Like, you look back that period, it's like, I'm probably not going to watch a lot of that stuff again, but it's still nice that wrestling was happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
That said, I'm probably taking season 4.
Yeah, I would say the same in your shoes on that one. Season 4, or we got next, season 7. Which started with the brutal deaths of Abraham and Glenn.
And that's something too, because like I think maybe if I was like established with those characters live as it was happening, it would have like affected me more. But even still, Abraham and Glenn are like 2 of my favorite characters.
Mm-hmm.
In the show. Like, I really like both of them. And still, Negan's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of funny how that played out, because, like, it was one of those things for a lot of people where it was like, oh, this is irredeemable. Like, I'll never like Negan now. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And that's kind of how...
They did, but you know what's goofy is it was also because you had been in a tug of war, not to cut you off, but I was just going to insert, like, you had been a tug of war at Glenn's fate because one season, not even before then, is whenever they pulled that shit that we were just talking about, where they're like, oh, he's dead, he's not dead, is he dead? 4 episodes, you didn't see him, and then you see him, and then, you know, it's like, so they were kind of like... But what I'll also point out is some of these people cried like little bitches. Like, I know it was emotional. It fucking affected me too. And I watched it. But I knew from the comics too, that was the first person that he killed. He killed Glenn with a baseball bat whenever, like, you know, his introduction, like, in the comics.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
after Abe, you didn't know if you were still getting Glenn, and then it broke people whenever Daryl punched him, and then everyone was like, including me, once again, I was like, oh no, is Daryl gonna get it?
That would have really sucked.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, oh no. Anything in that situation would have been bad, though, you know what I mean?
Well, it's like Daryl fucking, but he didn't care. Like, he was reacting out of such emotion. I mean, he was not scared to die there at all. There's no way he would have punched him. He was, you know, but the thing is like, Daryl probably figured if anything, he was going to be put to death for it, not somebody else. But that was Negan's smart, and like it or not, like the manipulation tactic, because all you needed to say was like, people needed to see that. But him realizing that Daryl had the balls to punch him in the face was like, yeah, we're not going to waste that guy. We're going to use him.
Yeah.
Because he respected him for that. Like, he hated that he did that, plus he punched him in front of everybody, but he's just like, I'm still going to make him pay, but we're not going to take him. You know, but he also knew that Daryl wasn't afraid of him, and that's the larger reason, too. He's like, well, we're going to break him just like they want to break everybody. And somebody as strong-willed as Daryl, like, you know, if you can break him and make him do the stuff you want, you can really make use of him, which was, you know, what Negan always said, like, we do not waste a resource, and people are a resource, so, like, you just take 1 or 2 of them out, and you do it in front of everybody to psychologically break them, and then you have them all, and they fall in line.
Yeah.
That's so smart, though.
I mean,
of course, it didn't end up panning out well, but that was down the line. For a while, it did. For a while, it did.
That community was like, it was well ran.
It really was. No, it was for sure. Simon is right.
Everybody that lived there was well off for the most part too. Like,
they all had food. They all had a place to live. They had plenty of weapons. They had everything.
Everybody was pretty much chilling most days.
Yeah.
Like hanging out, well fed.
Yeah. Nobody was fucking with him because they had a ton of ammo and a ton of people.
And that's why you can't really fault Negan or like too much, because it was like, yeah, what he did was bad to the group that we knew and we cared about for sure. But like to him, to all the people that he cared about, his group, he really looked out for him.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't in any way like, it wasn't a governor situation or really any of the other villains. Like he actually was like trying to do his best for his people, you know? He had a set of laws. He maybe the only like fucked up kind of weird thing he did was the multiple wives thing. That was
but see, that's the kind of thing, you know, like even in a show like Yellow Jackets, like that's almost kind of like the way it would go. Just somehow there'd be a hierarchy of like, you know, somebody being, oh, if it's the king or whatever, and then he'd have his, but like he'd be the only alpha, like truly male, like that's in there. You would end up, he had to make it to where he had to make it to where nobody could have relationships either, because it would get in the way of business. It would get in the way of the way the places ran. So everybody that was in a relationship that wanted to join had to like, you know, be done or give him up to basically Negan. I mean, Dwight experienced that. That's what happened to him. So
I mean, yeah, Negan even like faced that later, you know, being like, damn, like my former self, all the shit that I did, and because, you know, before the apocalypse, you know, he was like, he loved his wife. He was a decent guy. He wasn't a decent guy.
Crazy.
But yeah, he was a gym teacher, kind of a low life. But once the apocalypse happened, that's like when he really stepped up and like committed to his wife and like really tried to do everything for her.
Fuck, I want to watch that episode now. Because I'm like, because I have not in a long time, and I'm like, it was so good. It was such a good one story episode, like, you know? But yeah, in season 7 obviously was it was the first time in the series, they faced a ton of obstacles. They lost a lot of people, season 1 through 6, you know? But season 7, that first half, especially, really most of the season, but especially the first half, I mean, it was the first time anybody had gotten the better or controlled Rick's group, anything like that.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that's the truth. That was the first time it felt like they were overstepping and overreaching and doing something that was not really necessary. You could justify, and even Kyle, I think we talked about this, like we were talking about some of the decisions they made and everything, and couldn't you really, a lot of the decisions they made up until the satellite, you can justify all of them with what they did in certain situations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, in this world, obviously.
Yeah.
But, like, they didn't do anything that was too erratic or crazy or shameful or whatever. I mean, they did some, like, even the throat biting out. Like, Rick did what he had to do.
Yeah, that was necessary.
They had to do, but there were so many situations where they pretty much, I mean, I think they were, in what there is of the morally right of it, they seem like most of the time they did what a logically thinking person would do to look out for their loved ones and friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then up until then, and then that was the moment where he's just like, we're going to go in there, we need to, and then you're kind of like, something just didn't feel right about it, because they're like, whoa, they usually defend themselves whenever something attacks them and then go all out on them. They don't usually take the first move and basically ask for fucking trouble, which is what they did then.
Yeah.
You know? But they were so on their high horse after taking over everything that Rick and them had ever been a part of. They just climbed the mountain and were easily like the alpha top of whatever they were in. And especially Rick. But like his group even, I mean, it wasn't long at all before they took over Alexandria. And they had their own thing there, you know? And then they established stuff with the other communities and everything, which is like what also helped them in season 7. But most of that season, like, you had never seen anybody get the better of them. Like, they had challenges and they had lost a lot of people. A lot of bad shit happened to them. But that was like everybody, I can tell you that, like, from just watching live, is like everybody felt the weight of his group finally being just oppressed, though, you know, Rick's. And it sucks because you know, in most situations in the show, you can stick up for why Rick, even just looking at Rick himself and not everybody else's decisions, you're like, you can understand why he did almost everything, and like, until you get to that, and then it's like, it just seemed like not a good idea.
Yeah, it wasn't.
No.
I think by a slight margin, I might take season 4.
Yeah.
But it would be,
I would probably say that too.
Very close ones.
I would probably say that too. And it sucks because like there's episodes where you just felt like it was rough. I mean, but that's what they wanted you to feel too, because they had never been oppressed like that. So even as a viewer, you're kind of like,
yeah, that's what I mean.
You're kind of shoulders slumped that the group was not doing well like they normally were. You're like,
I know a lot of people like were
that's the way it
bummed
felt.
by that for sure. I kind of like, it didn't bother me as much, I think, because I wasn't live.
Yeah, you were just like,
but it was also the fact that like in that time I liked Negan a lot. So I liked the introduction to that, and I also liked that we were getting all these new people. Like we were getting all the Hilltop people and the Kingdom people. Like we were just getting an influx of new characters.
Yeah.
Like there was just a lot of things going on.
That's the thing I will say about season 7 is like it definitely introduced a shitload of more. That's whenever the group really felt like it expanded because they started getting the communities involved. And that's what I say too is, when the day will come when you won't be happened, that was a huge turning point in the show. That's a huge marker for nothing feeling the same after that happens. You know?
Yeah, everything kind of shifted after that.
It
for
did.
Sure. That was because the next episode, like the Kingdom was introduced, and
then
it kind of stuff.
Yeah. It kind of grew from there. But like that episode, but that's in that, I'm not saying that like it's an outlier, like, oh man, that shouldn't have happened. That's how the comics were. Like when Negan was introduced in a lot of I've like looked online the comments and some of the people that have read the comics and everything too, and they'll tell you like it shifted everything when Negan was introduced, you know, because I mean he's like that, you know, it was a huge turning point.
Yeah.
He did some damage. But yeah, there's definitely something that can be said about that. And like, you know, and obviously we saw in the prequel episode that like Negan, he came back after being, you know, gone for weeks, his wife asking him not to be. But he's like, you know, she basically was just like, spend my last days or hours or whatever with me instead of going, because she's like, she knew there's no way in hell she was going to be able to hold out. Yeah. And she tried to beg him, but he was so in love with her and did not want to let her go, and you know, still felt bad and stuff, and he's just like, no, I'll go out. But it's like, if you're him, it sucks because you want to do that, but realistically speaking, if she's not getting any treatment and you're, you know, like you're gonna be gone for that long, you know,
probably
she's
gonna be over.
It's not gonna be a good thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, but you know, he was in problem solving mode no matter what. That's the problem. So he's like, no, he probably thought he'd get it sooner than he did. He's like, no, I can come back, and you know, it's like, but you don't know where, like, if you go out there with all those walkers and all these people in random places, you have no idea how long you're gonna get derailed before you know, if you don't know what's around you and shit. And like, this was early in the apocalypse, so you know, they were still kind of figuring out like where settlements were and where you know, I mean, it was fortunate that he was able to find them. And it's kind of cool though, because that guy's daughter, like, that he had that like gave him the bat and stuff too, he like made her like one of his top, you know, basically leads like under him, because he knew her beforehand. And I'm sure he treated her like extremely well because he knew her from that, and then it was his fault that what happened to her, and then her dad helped him even though they helped him out. And that was awesome though, because he came back to unleash hell on those fucking people. But it was cool because like, you know, he like made sure she was like well taken care of, and she was like one of his top people too. There was like a few people, like Simon was his right hand man, but then there was like her and then a few other people that were in charge of a lot of different aspects of the whole community. So yeah, there's no doubt it was well ran. I mean, it was definitely well. It's crazy because once he was sitting there and saw his wife like suffocate herself like when he was gone. And like to be realistic, it's sad because it probably wasn't that long after he left that she did that. So like he was out there trying for weeks without coming back, and she was already probably dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by the end of like a week, I'd probably head back.
Yeah.
As bad as it is to say, but it's like at that point, you'd be defeated for one. For two, she might already be gone. For three, if she's not, you want to be there.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, yeah, by the time he got back anyways, it was probably going to be over, regardless.
Oh, yeah.
So, but
he didn't want to accept it that it was, like,
Yeah.
going to be over, though, like, at all. Like, otherwise he would have, you know. Because she's just, I mean, like, she would have been right, though. Like, at least if, it sucks because if
he
you
named
feel
the
like,
bad after, you know?
yeah, he did. He was, yeah, that episode is so good, though.
It was.
The problem is it can't hold up the fucking entire season 10 on its own. I mean, it does.
The
obviously,
Whisper
there's
of
a
War was fantastic.
Yeah, most of the
too,
Whisper of War
but-
wasn't 10 actually. It was like the back half, I want to say, of season 9, and then
Yeah,
pretty much
the
the
last-
gist of season 10.
Yeah,
Minus the
9
first 6.
was The Whispers, that was cool too, because that was a lot of like when they infiltrated the community and like Omega.
That shit
I think a lot
was
of her
creepy as
storyline
fuck,
was.
dude.
Yeah, that was cool.
Whenever Alpha put on the wig and everything, and like
Mhm.
that shit felt just dirty. It was like, oh no, what are they doing? And then that was weird. Like she's like, you deserve a reward. Like wanted to bang him, and he's just like, ah. Negan was just being loud as fuck whenever he was with them.
Yeah, he wasn't like being a whisper.
Yeah,
at all.
he is not.
I mean, when he needed to be, he would be, but
They needed probably introverts only in that group.
yeah.
Oh shit. But what were we on?
I think the last one was season 7.
Yeah, so you said by a slight margin, season 4.
Yeah.
All right, next up we got season 4 or season 2.
Again, it'd probably be a slight margin, but probably 2.
Oh yeah.
There was
I
a
would
lot
think season
going
2.
on in 2. 2 was like early, but there was like almost, it feels like a completely different show because it was like a different set of characters in that season compared to like if you look at season 2 compared to even like season 7, you know, or any of that. Like it was the original set of characters pretty much in that season.
Well, the drama was just so good, and like there was such a well representation of like the threat the walkers posed.
Yeah.
That it was so much. It was just interesting. Like every episode made you want to watch. Like what the hell was gonna happen next, and like obviously the whole Shane, Laurie, Rick dynamic.
Yeah, that was
And
something.
Carl and Andrea and everybody was still there. Dale.
That was the thing too. A lot of the
Herschel
people
was
in that
introduced,
season pissed me off too. So it is something to take that season because like at the time, like
Who pissed you off in season 2?
yeah, just looking back at it now, I'm like, man, like Lori pissed me off. Shane pissed me off. Dale pissed me off. Andrea pissed me off in a lot of ways. Just like so many characters, I'm just like,
Oh, dude, I fucking loved it. The drama in season 2 was great. Oh man, and then they brought back like Randall. That episode 2 where like
at least Ed wasn't around.
no, he did get that cold open though in one of the episode flashbacks. But yeah, I don't know, I loved it. And then Merle had like a cameo in the Chupacabra episode where Daryl's like, you know, he falls down a thing and an arrow goes through him and then he's got to climb back up the mountain.
Yeah, that was funny.
I loved that fucking cameo.
Merle's just like over him talking.
Yeah, he was like
shit.
talking shit.
Yeah, season 2 was good. I mean, like I said, there was a lot of characters that pissed me off, but it was like the drama was good because it kind of reeled you in. And
Yeah, it did. Well, and the barn was the opening of the barn episode was absolutely fucking legendary pretty much dead already. Like, that's one of the all-time episodes, too.
That's the thing. Herschel's one of my favorite characters, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's a great character. But a lot of season 2, he pissed you off, too. Because you're like, buddy, it ain't going back the way it was.
He's like, my wife and my stepson are in that bond. And then he like strapping the thing on the horse, and he's like, they're people.
They were. They were.
That's what he said to Rick.
But they're not. Not now.
But none of them understood it. Beth and Mag, they were all like pissed because Glenn was like, they're dangerous. And Maggie's just like, then she crunched that egg on his head. That was bullshit. He's like, why would you waste an egg like that? It's true though. It's like, we got a fucking finite amount of this shit right now. Season 2 over 4?
Yeah, I think so.
I would definitely say that. Season 2, man, I love Season 2. I don't know what my all-time favorite season overall would be, but it's definitely up there. It's definitely in the top half. Next up, we got Season 4 or Season 11, the closer. Extra long season.
Yeah.
The Pope and a bunch of people walking in rooms and shit.
See, that's the thing. Season 11 was like a big mixed bag because I really liked Pope and the Reaper story, but it was short.
Yeah, it was like the first 8.
All in all, yeah, it was like 6 to 8 episodes. So, I was like, if that was the whole season, that season had potential to be like up there for me. I'm like, dude, it was looking promising, and they killed them off, and then the Reapers were done, and then, oh, here we go, we're Commonwealth. What the fuck was that? We're going to spend so many episodes on that. They're like, oh, let's end the show with politics after we've done all this dope shit.
It was that, yeah, see, I felt like that too. It was like, they're like, they wanted you to almost hate the kind of the slimy, non-trustworthy political villains the most, and you were like, and it wasn't even like that. You're like, they don't draw the most heat for me either. You're kind of just like, those are the heels you don't want to see. You're almost like, I just don't want to see that. I don't even
remember that guy's name, like the main dude. He wasn't even the main one because the lady ran it.
Yeah, Pamela, that was her name, and then I forget his name too.
Hornsby or something like that.
Yeah, it was Hornsby.
But I didn't like either of them at all.
It wasn't
even like I didn't like them because they were good villains. It was like, dude, these people seem weak.
You wanted to
like if they were actually faced with some shit that any of the other villains were faced with, like some of the warfare and shit, they get torn the fuck up.
I know. They had saved for many years, and they were all dressed like stormtroopers and shit.
Yeah, Mercer was decent.
Yeah,
he was like
he was the best character there for sure.
But even still, yeah, season 4.
Yeah,
I did like Pope and the Reapers a lot. They were like really up there. They were a highlight of the end of the show.
It did seem like an abrupt ending for Pope.
But it was just like, okay, that story's done. We're gonna spend 6 to 8 episodes on this shit that could be really fucking cool
on the rest of the content. Yeah. And it didn't even feel like it. No, seriously, didn't it? Like, it felt like a lot of people being interrogated, going into different rooms. Most of the episodes, like a lot of the episodes. You know?
I mean, that was a handful of them for sure.
Yeah. Or at least a good amount of scenes in every one of them.
And then they would all meet back up in the main, common area. Oh, what were they asking you?
He asked me what I was doing before the... It's like, what are we doing? We just saw all these people do some crazy shit. For years.
Now they're whispering at a fucking lunch table.
Like way away from Alexandria and shit. So next up we got...
Eugene's fault once again.
Next up we got season 4 or one of the most dynamic seasons of the series. Season 5.
Yeah, season 5's kind of like... They all reconnected. Yeah. There was a lot of things that happened, it felt like, in season 5. Because it was like Terminus.
Was the most badass, probably, opener of any of the seasons, I thought, was 5.
Yeah.
The No Sanctuary where they got out of Terminus and fucking just eliminated those motherfuckers.
It's like what? Terminus, the Wolves, and then Alexandria. Like all within
the Wolves
that season,
were
right?
season 6.
Okay.
That was them. So like they were trying to hunker down and like they were looking. That was also where they ran into a pack of dogs and like ate them because they couldn't find. There was no food for like. So they were actually showing some realism in that they hunkered down in like a cabin for a little bit, but they were trying to work as a group. There was like 16, 17 of them. All the people like that they had, you know, from the prison, and then mixed with some people they found along the way, and then they all meshed. So that was like awesome. So the group, I felt like the group was so strong in season 5. Like that group of them, it was just so much fucking manpower, and like it was awesome. But yeah, like I'm trying to think. So they were on the road. They were heading to Washington because Eugene has revealed that he had lied. Abraham punched him out, and then he kind of forgave him and stuff. And they were trying to figure out what to do. There was also Gareth, and a few episodes into season 5 was whenever they were at the church, met Gabriel in episode 2 of 5. And episode 3, I want to say, was when they took Bob out and ate his leg, and then they had to put Bob down because they threw him in the front yard of the church and stuff. And then they're like, oh shit! And then they knew that some of the remaining Terminus people were still out there.
Yeah.
But then they let him into the church, left some people in, but then Tyrese, Rick, Daryl, everybody came behind him, and it was just a plan to get him in there, just to have the guns all on them instead of them being on the group, you know. And once again, just Rick's plan, and then they just fucking way outsmarted him. And they slaughtered all those guys in the church. So, and then, they were heading towards, a little after that, so whenever they were going to head, like, whenever Glenn and Maggie, Rosita, Abraham, Eugene were, like, going to head out, but then it was obviously revealed that Eugene lied, and then they're all still like, hey, let's head there. There's a reason he was thinking that, and then they obviously dealt with some shit along. And then they met Aaron where they were in the barn, and then he's, like, telling them about this place. They didn't trust him at first. I'm pretty sure Rick punched him a few times anyway. But, they were being careful because of they'd been fucked over, so. But, yeah, he led them there, and then obviously there's the rest of the stories where they're kind of getting integrated into Alexandria through the rest of season 5. I love the ending to one of the episodes, though, when they're like they made Rick and Michonne like some of the safekeepers / security guards for the community. And then they're still like, oh, Deanna's like, I'm still trying to figure out something for Mr. Dixon. And so, like, Rick and Carol and Daryl just had, like, a secret meeting kind of outside of everybody. And Rick just ends one of the episodes where he's like, yeah, these people need to fall in line and blah, blah, blah. And then Carol or Daryl, one of them was just like, yeah, but what if they don't? He's just like, and this is just their attitude at that point because they had conquered, like, everything. And Rick's just like, if they don't, like, they don't kind of come to living in reality and there's an actual threat out there, you know what I mean, basically, because he's just like, these people have been safeguarded almost this whole fucking time, they don't actually know what it's like out there. And Carol's just like, and if they don't come around, and Rick's just like, then we'll just take this place. But it's like, that was their attitude. They had conquered everything in like season, and then obviously towards the end of season
they started kind of getting more like ruthless too, was throughout like
season 5
season.
Rick
was a lot of that was shown.
Rick with the bushy beard was like ruthless as fuck.
Yeah, that was throughout that season. That was another great season. Yeah,
season 5's arguably like the best one next to like a few of the other ones.
I'm taking 5.
Yeah, it was so strong. Now, like, one of the biggest complaints was Beth's death at the end of the mid-season 4. That also happened there. Remember, they went back to Atlanta, and then Tyrese died the next episode, the mid-season premiere. It was like brutal.
A lot of problems.
Yeah,
a lot of death there. A short period of time. Beth's death was just like,
it felt unnecessary.
Yeah, one of the just like harshest, just because in a lot of ways, it was just like, damn, man, do we really need to do this?
It felt like they were like, we need a big death. This is the mid-season finale. And then that fucking pissed a lot of people off.
She was getting really cool and we were starting to really like bond with her more. And
She was the richest her character had ever been right before like she died.
Yeah.
And it was just like, all right. I don't know. Yeah, I told you that. I mean, I remember that was one of the big points. Like, people forgave him for it, but it pissed a lot of people off when they spoiled the death.
Yeah, spoiled.
Yeah. Oh, I remember seeing that post. And even I was kind of like, at first I was just like, oh shit, they already updated it. And then it dawned on me that I was just like, wait a minute. I was like, we're like 2 time zones ahead of half the country. And I was like, and then sure enough, on the comment section, people were fucking
they weren't
furious.
reading it at the. I mean, they weren't seeing it at the same time.
No, it was dumb because out in California it aired like 2 hours later.
That makes no sense. So it was just like, oh, it's 7 everywhere. It should just be like, okay, that means that it's an hour ahead in the East and 2 hours
it's
behind
doing that
in the
the East. But the other one, it actually doesn't come on until 8 Cali time. And I thought that too. Yeah, so everybody in Mountain Time and in Cali, basically like, West Coast, Pacific Coast.
Yeah.
They were behind, and that's how it was when I lived out in California. Like, it came on at 8, but 8 there. When it was 8 out there and I was watching, it was 10 here. Mm-hmm. People had already watched Talking Dead. So I was like, everything felt a little... And that's the other shitty thing, is like, football games are on at like 10 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I was like, man, regardless, we're just weird. We're born where we are, like smack dab in the middle of the country and everything. But like the time zone makes the most sense in terms of the viewership than any of the other time zones.
Yeah, the time that things come on TV is definitely the most part.
They don't get over until really late on the East Coast, and that's the problem.
Ever.
And then the other ones are like way too early. Or something with the cable's all fucked up and they don't air it at the same time. It should be at the same time. It should be at 6.
Yeah, then
out there.
It's like still light outside on the West Coast, and it's like fucking ending like halfway into people's sleep on the East Coast.
Dude, I remember that comment section though. So many people were so upset for like them spoiling it and shit. People forgave them for it, but it's like I always tell you, I'm like, a few things happened that definitely helped like take the ratings. That didn't really hurt the ratings. But that was like the first time that people were like, ooh, why the fuck would you do that? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
it was just somebody in charge of their social media team and they got fucked over probably for it.
People were mad about that though, but then,
I'm sure they heard about it, the person that posted that.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't. The thing is, all of us in the East Coast were like, hey, we don't give a fuck. Like, we already saw it. But like, a lot of them go,
there's a lot of backlash still, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh man, but I did think about that. I remember specifically staring at my phone and like doing a double take because I was just like, oh man, they already put it on here, and then I was like, oh shit, I was like, it hasn't aired yet over there, and I saw some of the comments and so season 5 over 4.
Yeah.
So next up, season 4 or season 9. Rick was out of the show by the end of 5 episodes. The first 5.
Yeah, it was Rick's exit. A lot of the Whisper introduction. Season 9 was strong though too. That's another one that's really close.
Yeah. It was. The Whisperer stuff was, and then the Heads on Pikes thing was like, the second to last episode or something like that? And then the infiltration, that whole, that's how they did it. Was they took some of those people aside and beheaded them. That was some maniacal shit. Alpha was fucking ruthless.
Yeah, Alpha was definitely the crazy ass in that group.
Yeah.
Like, Beta was probably my favorite of the Whisperers.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a little more like, even sometimes some of the shit Alpha did, he was even like, oh, fuck, man, I don't know about all this,
Yeah.
He's just kind of going along with it.
What was his name? Ryan Hurst, the guy that played, and he's also the guy that played Opie in Sons of Anarchy, which is probably, to this day, he's probably still my favorite Sons of Anarchy character. He was great. Like, that was a death next to like Glenn's in that. Like, a lot of people were just like, it fucked a lot of people up because he was a great character in Sons.
Man, by a hair, maybe I'm gonna give this one to 9
Really?
on today. Yeah.
Ooh. All right. Well, next up and last, we've got season 4 of The Walking Dead or season 6. The Wolves, the Satellite.
Yeah.
Morgan's back with the group. The introduction of Negan at the very end.
Yeah.
Glenn and fucking
I
Nicholas.
don't know why. There was just like, yeah, fuck Nicholas, dude. There was just like,
I remember when we were watching it, you were hating Nicholas. You're like, fuck Nicholas. Dude, that dude
Season
did nothing
6.
but stir shit up. Basically with Glenn the whole season.
it's probably one of the bottom seasons for me. And that's it. Once again, that doesn't even mean that it was a bad season of television. Just like comparatively to Walking Dead, it was just like
That was when ratings started to. They were still really high from season 5, but they started to. You for the first time in many seasons, you could see they started to kind of plateau at a certain point. And then, I mean, it did jump up again. The highest it ever jumped after that was The Day Will Come When You Won't Be. I believe, because I don't think anything after that past that. But that wasn't the highest rate. I think The Day Will Come When You Won't Be was maybe. I think what reset the record was the 5 premiere, No Sanctuary, which is one of the best episodes. I mean, that's probably top 5 episodes ever in the show.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great episode.
Certainly the best opener, I would say.
Yeah, I'm taking season 4. Yeah.
Over 6.
Yeah.
You had a completely even 5 and 5 split. So out of 11, if you were to rank them and you do it fairly according to what you just did, it would probably rank dead in the middle.
Yeah, about number 6.
Do you agree with my analysis? I'm not trying to see if you do or don't. I just want to know what you think. With the whole, the first, it kind of being top heavy with the first half of season 4 being a lot. I don't think it was horrible or weak by any means, but I do think it was for sure better the first half. A lot of the seasons, the second half is better. But season 4, I think for sure that season was
splintered, right?
Yeah.
It was the second half of season 4.
Some of those episodes were a little. The motivation was a little weird for some of the characters and where they were trying to go.
Daryl and Beth and
that episode is great.
That was good.
The finale was great too.
Carol and the girls.
Yeah, the
that
Grove.
Was good, yeah.
The Beth that episode, the Tyrese, Carol, and the closer were phenomenal. The other 5 of them were, I mean, they're pretty good. Claimed, that was one of the ones where those guys came in, and that group was, that group was some nasty fuckers too. Joe, that was the leaders group. It wasn't the dude that was trying to fucking molest Carl, but I don't even know that dude's name, but Joe was the leader of that group. That was the guy that got his throat bit out. He wasn't a bad villain. I mean, I could see where they were coming from, but they were just a bunch of like heavy setter like guys with fucking kind of a moral code, but they were just kind of highway savages, man. Like they just, no matter who was there, they would just wreck whoever's shit it was and just take shit. Yeah. It was kind of like
claim.
Yeah. I mean, they had rules, but they were not a great group of guys.
No. Not by any means.
But
well, you want to do yours?
Hell yeah.
All right.
Yeah, let's do it. Why not?
Your season will be
my measuring stick.
Season 5. Oh no, not season 5. Season 5 is one of the best ones.
Yeah.
Season 9.
Okay.
It is. Season 9 is one of the ones that. It's a pretty dynamic season, I feel like. Because it is the exit of Rick.
The episodes he was in were great. And his episode was definitely top 10, if not top 5 ever, too. Like his last one.
Yeah. That
episode was phenomenal. The only thing I would have done was maybe make like, I mean, they probably tried, but the only thing I would have done differently in that episode was and Sasha didn't do a bad job, obviously. She was fine, but I think it would have fit better if, like, the flashback was, like, Lori instead of Sasha, because then it would have been like Shane, Herschel, and Lori, and that would have just, I don't think there's anything better. Unless,
Yeah,
like,
that would've been
Carl, maybe, too, something like that.
That would be good.
But I think one of those would have been a little better of a fit for him to see, you know?
Yeah.
But I fucking loved his episode.
Yeah, that was a good one. It was, I mean, it was, everybody knew it was his exit, but...
Yeah, they literally campaigned them as
Yeah.
Rick's last episodes, which Kyle hated. But I knew why they were doing it, because the ratings had started to kind of dip a little bit in ways. And, you know, even season 7 and 8, like, it wasn't like they just took a downhill or whatever. It was just, you know, a little people fell off.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like it went fucking way downhill. But, I mean, the numbers they were getting were insane, especially for the post-apocalyptic genre, like, you know, on cable television. Like, that was nothing they expected, you know?
Yeah.
So, I didn't, a lot of people didn't know when it was going to die down or if it was, but it was, I mean, it definitely had a high. I mean, either way, during all their huge seasons, I mean, they made so much money that the show was going to be fine for forevermore.
Yeah, I mean, they had enough money, a budget at that point. Season 9, now this is why I was confused. Up first against season 5.
Oh, okay. I would say probably season 5. It still had more of maybe perhaps my favorite characters, I think, by the time we got to season 9, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, in ways, maybe the most dynamic season from where they started to where they ended and their journey along the way. And, I mean, it's season 5. There's only like maybe 2 seasons that have competition with even probably being better than 5 to me.
Yeah.
It's what it is. But yeah, I mean, I love season 9. And like, I would love to go back and rewatch, I mean, the whole show, but even short of that, seeing some of the stuff that maybe me and you only watched the once or twice and, you know, after that. Because I know we had thrown on some before then, but it's, you know, you quickly kind of figure out a lot of the layout of the story kind of earlier on and put the pieces together. And, you know, we've had a ton of kind of dialogue about it and stuff. You have when things happened, and so one thing I always try to do is like timestamp the fucking the timeline and everything and figure out what happened when. But yeah, I would say season 5.
All right. So 1 up. Season 9 or season 2? Know some of your favorites here,
I know.
but you know, getting some of
Remember-
the easy ones out of the way early.
Remember that one first, like the first really time that you saw something like about the Whispers or whatever, like that moment that Jesus did that backflip, and then the dude all of a sudden like got him, like he stuck him with the, and then you realized that one of the walkers were actually somebody.
A Whisper.
Yeah. Oh, that was
crazy.
a crazy twist. Because we were just chilling, like watching, like that was not. They did that so well, like it was still so dark in the scene, and then just, you know, he does his fucking hyper athletic shit, and then like out of nowhere you're like, oh, like that was done so well. And I remember that from season 9 too. The heads on the pikes, the whole, you know, season 9 was tremendous though.
It was really good.
But I'm gonna have to go with season 2.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to. I just, you know, it was so well done. And that's the thing too, is actually season 2 is a little shorter than people realize too. It was only like 13 episodes. It went from 6 to 13 to 16 for every season until 10 whenever they added those extra 6. And then obviously the last season of 24. Plans were different, but then COVID happened and a lot of things kind of shifted. So, but yeah, I would probably say season 2, like just, you know, a collective, the story, and I mean, so many great characters in it at that time as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the OGs. You know?
I mean, I love obviously the group that was in 9 too, and not to take away from that, but
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
All right.
It's tough.
So to zilch, can they fight out of it? Season 9 or season 7? Beginning of the Savior War there.
Yeah, it was. You remember that episode where it looked like Rick was gonna die, and then Michonne like dropped her weapons, and like whenever they were like that whole thing that used to be like a carnival, and then they got all the guns from like the security that were kind of walkers, and that was in season 7 where they're trying to collect all the guns. Yeah, that was a wild moment because you're like, oh shit, did something happen to Rick? And then like Michonne drops her weapons, and then he comes out of like the side of one of those, little displays or whatever.
Is that like when they're
fighting walkers,
like romantic stuff?
Yeah,
started to
a few episodes before then is where they held the hands and did the started kissing and stuff. I would probably say season 9 over 7 personally.
Yeah,
I've seen season 7 more, but. There was definitely a different feel after The Day Will Come When You Won't Be. And, like, the thing is, people don't realize, too, is, like, they left you on a cliffhanger that lasts 6 months whenever they eeny, meeny, miny, modem and all that shit, the Negan thing, and everybody was theorizing who it was going to be, and, and then they do it, and then they bust open Glenn, too. And that's the other thing. All those 6 months, people were probably like, oh, shit. They're like, he's going to kill one person, and then he kills 2 once you watch the episode, and you're like, oh, no. But that was brutal. Corey thought that, we both thought that Daryl, like, we were watching it live at the house, like, whenever I came back from Florida for, like, that week, and that was never aired. And, I mean, we both thought that, like, Daryl was about to get it, and I was like, oh, no. That would have been terrible. But, yeah, I just took 9, right?
Yep.
9 over 7. I do love 7, though. I'm not going to discredit it. See, that would have been a hard one to really put against them, too.
Yeah. All right, so season 9's on the board.
Yep.
Season 9 or season 10. That was another one, like we said, it had a lot of, like, good to it, but it was also choppy, and there was, like...
It was.
Some filler nonsense, not so good.
Yeah. And when you take the collective, too, and that's what I think of, because I'm like, and that's what I think of, too, is, like, even season 2 was shorter, but as a collective group of episodes, like, there wasn't wasted moments in that one. And, it was so good. I would probably say season 9 over 10.
Yeah.
The way I'm feeling.
Too. Honestly, out of the last, 3, because they feel like their own kind of collection of themselves, away from even 7 and 8 and stuff, I think 10's probably, in ways, my least favorite of the 3. But I don't know. Because,
the Whisper War was 10, too.
Yeah, that's the thing, too, is they did have the Whisper War.
Because
the Commonwealth just was... But I liked Pope a lot, man. Yeah. We just, incorporate him into the end of season 10, and then we could just say that 11 was the shits. If it was just all Commonwealth. Yeah. Or we could just eliminate Commonwealth and make season 11 all Pope and the Reapers. But season 9 over 10.
Yeah.
Alright, season 9 or season 4?
Damn. Yeah, that's a tougher one. I've definitely seen season 4 more, for sure. In fact, probably at least 2 or 3 times more than I've seen season 9. And I only watched through the end of Rick's episodes in 9 when it aired. But you gotta also think that was not just because I lost interest. I think I did watch the first episode after Rick, actually. I think I watched that live too. But right after that is when I moved into my place on Hampton, and I didn't have access to watching live TV. You know what I mean? Like watching cable at least, or AMC. Where AMC was. and so I kind of fell behind, and then I just let myself fall behind. And I think that was the problem too, because that was by timing wise, it was a rough spot to fall behind, because knowing that Rick wasn't going to be in it too was no more incentive to be like, oh, I got to tune in now. You know what I mean? And what's crazy is I could have easily just signed up for something and like caught up, but after that, my mind was on other things and got my new place, and then everything, you know what I mean? Everything was just in motion, and then it was the holidays. But I mean, looking back, I love season 9 now, and that is a tough one, because in ways the storytelling they did in 9 was incredible, and some of them maybe feel more like they had purpose to them than some of the stuff in season 4. Like, there were certain episodes with certain groups. The episode with like Bob, Sasha, and Maggie was kind of like them. It's like, yeah, they were split from the group, but they were just kind of like walking around, and they're like, no, we need to split from each other, or I'm gonna go my own way. And it's just like, what the fuck are you guys doing? You need to all stick together to find everybody else. So some of it just had some things like, and this is the back half of season 4,
Yeah.
They just, certain episodes were like, I'm not saying they were bad or anything necessarily, or terrible, or it just
questionable.
The basically like the goal was kind of questionable, like the goal line, or it's like what they were doing this to like lead them all towards Terminus, and they would kind of show that as all each of their episodes went on. But that makes it hard, because the first some of those episodes, obviously at the end, and the first half of season 4 was amazing,
Mm-hmm.
So that's tough. That is most certainly the toughest one so far. I would probably say right now, without upon more of you or watching them again, I'd probably say season 4 over season 9, but that's one that's subject to change. But and for nostalgia fact, and the other thing is, Too Far Gone, the mid-season finale of season 8 was one of the best, or season 4 was one of the best episodes ever. Just the all-out war with the governor and that group that he affiliated with in the prison. There's also the destruction of the prison, so it was an end of an era. But it was such a consequential, satisfying, but also emotionally tugging episode. Like, that episode gave you everything, but it also took so much away. Fucking Herschel and like multiple people had gotten killed. Like, it was.
That was a great episode.
It was that we've talked about this before. That is for sure in my top 10, maybe top 5. Also, I can't say everything is my top 5, so I have to be careful with that. But that is Too Far Gone. Probably truly is in my top 5 though, because that's just an amazing episode. Unfortunately, it's Herschel's swan song, but we've eventually gotten past that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was rough elements to that episode, but it was just a lot went down in that episode. So season 4 wins out.
Yeah.
Season 9 or season 8?
Damn. Season 8, man, an all-out war.
Yeah.
Negan's prisoner for pretty much all of 9, right? Or he might get out in 9 a little after. I mean, because you got to think that 6 years passed between Rick, being
I think
gone.
He got out within season 9.
Yeah, he did. And then he like came back and went into his cell, and then Maggie was like mad at him. He's like, "What'd you do?" They were like, "Where the hell did you go?" No, it wasn't Maggie, because she was gone too.
Well, Carol was the one that like left it unlocked or something, right?
Yeah. So this is 8 versus 9.
And then Judith freaking shot him down.
Yeah. I'm gonna say season 8 over that one.
Yeah, I probably agree. And I thought season 8 was really strong.
The war was so just poetic too, and like there was so many like underlying purposes for everything, and so many like the war had such a weight on everything too. Huge turning point, like by the end of it.
Yeah.
But that's how the comic was too. Like it picked up, I think, 2 years after the war ended, whereas they picked up in season 9. I think they said it was a year and a half between like Rick's like closing on the end of his run. But since the war ended, so it kept roughly the same timeline. But probably go season 8.
All right.
I love season 8, honestly. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. All right, season 9 or season 1. The opener.
Yeah. Probably season 9. A little more density, a little more like, complexity, and like the storyline just kind of a lot of shit happened. But obviously season 1 had to be great enough to get good ratings for, to get people watching.
Yeah.
And like it still is great if you go back and watch it. Like it's a great watch. And the CDC episode, like some people were mixed.
Great.
Some people were like mixed on it at the time, but now like everyone realizes like how critical of an episode that was too. And like I thought it was insane because you were like, holy shit, everything's post-apocalyptic, and Jenner offers him this one easy way out. He's like, it sets the air on fire. You won't feel a thing. And some of the characters, well, at least Jackie stays behind. Andrea was going to, and then Dale decided that he didn't want her to because he still wanted to bang her.
Oh, Dale.
So he kind of guilted her. Well, first day, I'm paying. It's like, and then she's like, I don't want your, and she lashed out on him about that though. She wasn't wrong to do that because she's like, nothing has changed. She's like, if I wanted to go and I wanted to die my way, that was my call. She's like, I didn't want your death on my conscience, and that is the only reason I left that place.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a prick move for Dale to do that though too.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, if he wanted to stay because of it, but then he like made it to where
He was trying to do the right thing, but it was like, bro, come on. Like
it was
not
weird,
really your
man.
call to make.
Yeah, the way he was, and like I could tell he cared, but I'm like, man, I'm glad Herschel kind of came to the story because Herschel was by far like my favorite moral compass of the show.
Yeah.
Like anybody, and there were some characters that even we had for a while that started to serve more as that. Like there was eventually a point where Michonne started to serve that.
He was like the old wise. Though.
Yeah, but he fit that moral compass character better than anybody else, and like he was the best one.
Yeah.
And there's just something about Herschel's quotes and his like the stuff he says, the speeches like he gives and everything. Like it just feels like important, like his advice, his wisdom. And he's one of the best characters of all time too.
So yeah, season 9 though over season 1.
Yeah.
All right. So season 9 or season 11, going from the opener to the closer.
Probably season 9. More flawless for sure, and I was more into everything, I would say, overall.
Yeah. Yeah, season 11 had highs and lows, but it was choppy. It was kind of all over with.
Yeah, and those seasons had some great episodes. It just felt like, well, and that's the thing too. In context, what you were saying earlier, like you had seen all the crazy shit that had happened up until then, and them fighting groups, and then overcoming the odds, and them overtaking Negan's group, and like all these duels and battles, and all this insane history that they had. And then like season 11 like gets to the point where it's this weird shit in the Commonwealth, and it's like political, and it's just like, this is weird to go from this to like this,
Yeah.
But once again, upon further review, if I were to watch them now, binge it, just gotta sit down and binge it, I might feel differently. I might feel like it's better than when we watched it before, But it felt like for a long time in those episodes, there was like a lot of movement and kind of creepiness and just weird backing each other into corner type shit in like season 11 and going into rooms, and you were like, what is going on?
Yeah, it was strange.
Yeah, I'd probably take 9 though.
All right, down to the nitty gritty here.
Oh man, with the last one?
Okay.
Well, I know what one of them was gonna be.
Season 9 or season 3?
Overall, season 3, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a strong one.
It
There's
definitely.
a lot going for it.
It definitely was. Had so many great characters too. Like we didn't have a Shane, but we got that like one reappearance of Morgan. We got the episode with we obviously got Merle back because he was aligned with the
Merle was
governor,
around.
and then he came back to the governor.
Michonne came around. Herschel was still around.
Mm-hmm. Beth,
Yeah, Beth was still around.
Carl, everybody. I mean, like it was and then the prison setting was just so cool. Like some of that stuff too is like with the earlier seasons. I really love it. It's interesting because it can be simple and complex at the same time, kind of like less is more, and that is what some of the arcs to those early seasons felt like. It felt like because they were grounded in such reality, they didn't have to be crazy, insane. Like the action, like the stuff that we did get, and there was a lot of crazy stuff that happened, but it felt so big because they weren't trying to overdo anything. Like everything was simple but complex. Less was more.
Mm-hmm.
And just the drama was just so good, and it still felt like a horror post-apocalyptic like show, those early seasons are, it's hard to beat them. Like the whole show is great, but some of the storytelling early on was just, I knew when I was watching, I'm like, this shit's legendary. Like it felt just enticing, like I hadn't really been enticed in a show before. Like I had grown up and obviously watched, cartoons and like some of the adult sitcom stuff. But in terms of a show with like a really nuanced, long story, that was the very first show I was ever in to that degree ever. Was The Walking Dead. And I mean, it was just, there was no looking back. Like I got into so many after that, and like there's definitely an argument that I never would have found Breaking Bad or watched it when I did, having the effect on me it did also if I had not gotten into The Walking Dead too, you know what I mean? And those are both two of my favorite of all time for sure. So
AMC.
They knock it out of the park, man.
Alright, so the last one here, season 9 or season 6? It's funny, I think season 6 was the last one on both our lists.
Yeah. I know, I started just spewing them out like kind of randomly earlier as making a list, but I wanted to go from one extreme to another. I didn't want it to be like, 7, 8, 6, 9, keep them in close range. I want to make them varied. Probably season 9 as a collective is what I would say.
Well, just like me, it was a 5-5 even split.
Really?
Yeah.
Those were good. Those were good ones to pick. I wasn't sure where you stood at 4. I was subconsciously, I probably thought you would take it over several, but I didn't know how many. And I don't think I would have thought it would have went over like more than one more than it did for you. But I also didn't fully know where you stood with it, because I knew whenever we watched some of the season 4 stuff over and everything, I was like, I knew you did enjoy season 4 a lot. I just didn't know where. So what about season 4 do you think, let's just compare it to the main, like what about it pulls it down for you compared to like even season 2, 3, or like 5, the ones around it?
It's probably just the back half not being as strong.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, it felt like it was a strong season. There were still a lot of great episodes in it, but
some of
just had moments within the back half that it was like, this episode was kind of weak.
Yeah, it did. Well, because it felt like not a lot was going on. It's just like, do you guys have enough to fill this before you determine this, or you just kind of like, yanking on everybody's fucking chain, just
we still got a few more episodes to fill out the season. So.
Yeah. But the Grove, which is the one with Lizzie and Mika and all that, it was obviously great. The finale was great. And then, Still, that was the one with Beth and Daryl. And that's one of the ones that of a lot of the decisions or people's perception of episodes or seasons or whatever, like that's probably one of the ones I disagree with them the most. A lot of people didn't like that episode. I loved Still. I thought it was a great episode. But I also really liked Beth and Daryl, and like to see them in another setting, just like them two breaking away from the group, and like them both dealing thoroughly with the consequences of what had just happened and stuff. Was like I don't know, it was super interesting. Like Daryl got into his backstory and Beth got into hers, and like they talked about, you know what I mean? It might have felt, I can see why people would have been like, it didn't do much to advance the story, but it's like, yeah, but it gave so much layering to both those characters, and they were still wandering out there by themselves until they found other people. So like, how can you say that about Still, but then not say it about these other 4 episodes that were in the back half? You know what I mean?
Just kind of like showing everybody's
because to me,
journeys.
Still was a lot more entertaining than some of those other ones.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I love, like, that's one of my hardest disagreements with the community. I don't think it's like hated, but I did see some opinions about that where people are like, it's boring and blah blah. And that was the Up the Wolves ending too, whenever they light the thing on fire. Well, that was another. They're like
flipping it off.
They're like, Brett Best, like, let's play Never Have I Ever, and then Daryl drinks a lot, and then he starts just going off. Never eaten frozen yogurt. I never had a pet pony.
Like, he's a nice. What was he talking about the house? He's like, oh, this reminds me of my dad's place. Like, just needs a nice spit bucket.
Yeah.
It's just
for
like ran down fucking dump they were hanging out in.
5 splits overall. 9 season 9 and season 4. Man.
Yeah, those are good ones to pick, I guess.
Yeah, they would be. Well, I guess it's time to take a break. We've been going at it here for a minute. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back. Stay tuned, episode 176. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back from our break, and it is now time for another edition of the good, the bad, and the shits. And what a segment this time. I feel like going through the depths of The Walking Dead and looking at all the season, kind of at least a brief analysis of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It would be interesting to actually see what a list would look like for either one of us. I think this is another of the situations where we both probably agree on some of the sets, some of the top ones, some of the middle ones, some of the bottom. But in that, I feel like most certainly would be somewhat different. You know what I mean? But I think in those like difference, it's not like I'm like, oh yeah, this is one of the bottom ones for me, and you're like, yeah, this is number 1 and 2 for me. Most all of them that we really like, we both agree that are maybe the most fantastic ones,
Mm-hmm.
So there was just times when the writing and like just what was going on was just so fucking superior, like in terms of where it was in the story and everything. So, oh man.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the top seasons are pretty agreed upon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure there's differing opinions out there, but for the most part,
I think, and now that we've done it and there's no influence on that, I think whenever I looked at as far as critical and audience, like review, season 3, 5, and 9 were like the highest ones. But I mean, I'm pretty sure 4 is pretty well reviewed too, and 2 is obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some high ones. I don't know about like the newest seasons, but
yeah. I mean, 9's decently newer.
Yeah.
In retrospect to everything, but
kinda, but now it's 2018-19 it aired.
I know that one was pretty well received though.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of surprised me, but yeah, I know. I think what do you got to start with for the good, the bad, the sheets?
Well, this was kind of a strange move to me with the Browns. In the draft, I understand picking Shedeur Sanders late in the draft. Value pick, why not? He's still on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it. The thing is, though, 50 picks before that, they drafted Dylan Gabriel. So they have 2 quarterbacks that they picked in the draft. So what's your thought on picking 2 important position players of the same position in the draft.
I think it could be important depending on your needs, but do I think the Browns are goofy as fuck, but it fits the organization to do something like this? Yeah. Anybody else, I still ask the same question, but anybody else would be like, what the fuck are you doing? But also the Browns, what the fuck are you doing? Now you have like 5 QBs. They're going to have to release somebody, trade somebody, and you got to reduce that anyway. Like, they know that. They're probably just going to see who like turns out. But I feel like undeniably they're going to end up cutting Deshaun. I feel like they're going to trade one of the other guys, and it's going to be Flacco or Shador's team. But maybe at the start Flacco and then Shador comes in.
Yeah,
I think that's
maybe
who's the other
trade
two? Gabriel?
Dylan Gabriel and
sounds like a mix
Kenny
between
Pickett.
of a wrestler and like a baseball player. Yeah, and Kenny Pickett. Yeah, like what are they doing?
Just like
they're gonna trade
quarterback.
Pickett to somebody he's gonna be their backup probably.
I mean,
I don't know what they're gonna get. But
what are the Giants?
Honestly, that's
room
the
now?
move though. Get rid of Deshaun, trade Pickett. Somebody could use him.
Yeah.
He's better than some for sure backups. Probably quite a few.
Yeah.
But you got to do something with that. And then Flacco's got the most experience. So like, if nothing else, you can at least start the season with him and be like, all right, well, we at least got somebody
I
that can
expect him to start the season.
Well, he's the adult in the room too. He's the fucking
He's 40.
Yeah, exactly. But he can still
He's getting
play,
out there.
and at least he's smart. He knows what to do.
Yeah.
It's not like he's
tried to retire.
he might be a
like
floor
twice.
choice. Like, you're gonna at least be somewhat stable, but at least it's something.
Yeah, I mean, he had success there a couple of years ago.
You said that on the offseason. You're like, re-sign Flacco.
Why not?
I said, I was like, what are you going to do? But the fact that they draft 2 is just silly. But, it's a Cleveland move.
I mean, I kind of understand, and I'm not even mad fully.
This was a bad quarterback draft to draft 2 people.
Yeah. Like, I'm not even mad fully, though, about... Because the earlier draft picks, they drafted like a dope defensive lineman and a dope linebacker. So like the defense should be sick.
Yeah.
But it's like, offensively, I mean, got a running back too, so that's cool. Hopefully that's something. But I was just like, I mean, I understand it. They probably took Dylan Gabriel and passed on Shador at first for whatever reason.
Everyone did.
I don't know why they took Dylan Gabriel, though. I'm like, I don't think that anybody really thought that was great at that point. It was like, dude, we're this late in the draft. It's like the end of round 3. Just.
Why do you think he fell that far, though? Because nobody expected him to be past early second round.
No.
And for months, he was thought of as perhaps the number 1
I don't know,
pick.
I heard potential behavioral
Dion
things
and the loudness and the we want this and the entitlement maybe. And a lot of people said that he did bad in interviews. That's articles and
plus he already has a clothing brand where he's like calling him basically himself it's
that's
like
crazy,
legendary,
that's crazy,
and stuff like that. So I think the teams are just like, man, this guy's already got like this really big ego and personality coming in here, and his dad was somebody in the NFL, so he's gonna like be bothering coaches and GMs all the time. And
his dad was a fucking A++ talent.
Yeah.
And he's like a B. It's a fact.
We'll see. I'm not.
No, I mean his ceiling.
I'm not mad
he could
about
be better,
it though,
but
because it was.
It's just kind of what the hell.
It was
are
a
they doing?
value pick because it was so late.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I don't disagree with them picking him, but why 2 and then have this many guys in your roster? But I guess they're just waiting a little longer. I don't know, but wouldn't that be the move? You think maybe trade Pickett, cut Deshaun, and then
they picked up Pickett already in this offseason.
I don't know what they're doing. You can't even hold on to that many quarterbacks.
Right now, it looks like the quarterback rotation heading into training camp is going to be Joe Flacco starting. Kenny Pickett backup.
Really?
Dylan Gabriel third string. Shador fourth.
Really?
And then they'll probably...
Why do you say that?
Just because that's the way the draft fell. They drafted. They traded for Kenny Pickett in the offseason.
Yeah.
They tried to get him.
What are you going to say about Deshaun's?
Deshaun's gone.
You think they're cutting him?
This, like, if anything,
they're just going to
them drafting two quarterbacks says,
oh, yeah,
we want you out of here.
And they signed both those other two fucking guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they do. But it was their own dumbass fault.
That's what I mean. That was the biggest bonehead move they could have possibly
Only
made.
Cleveland.
Terrible move. Such a nearsighted, this is gonna work. Like,
they didn't have a plan. They're just like
so ill-advised to sign that.
They think they can fuck around in that division, and you can. And you know what it'll get you? Fucking fourth place. Because
hey, they made the playoffs 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, 3 years ago the Jaguars did.
Yeah. You know?
Or 2, or whatever that was. Yeah, it was. It wasn't that long.
Jaguars could come back and be dope.
We'll see. They got Travis Hunter. Yeah. I mean, they need more than that, though. So, yeah, somebody like the Jags who need...
The Jags kind of fuck
running backs and wide receivers. Sometimes you need multiple, but hopefully the Browns at least have some sort of plan. You got to get Deshaun out of there. You got to get rid of somebody or figure out another plan for somebody.
Yeah.
Flacco's a reliable guy to start. That would be the rotation, I guess, but that's kind of... I feel like Shador will actually get a chance to start at least a couple games this season.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a solid enough QB situation to not try him if things aren't going well. And honestly, even if Flacco starts 4-0, I mean, do you think they have him go the whole season, like with being the age he is? Or if maybe he struggles, maybe they
if he's going 4-0, they better as fuck not start anybody.
Yeah, but it would be something that they would do to be like, yeah, well,
this is a good time for Shador to come in and fuck everything up. And then everybody will hate him and give just a terrible first impression.
What if they lose the next game and they're 4-1? You pull Flacco out?
Hell no, it's 4-1. This is the Browns.
What if they're 3-2? You can entertain it, depending on the opponent.
Entertain it, and it depends on how the offense is looking. If you're not winning games by much, you're not putting up many points, then you could try out something.
At least they have an option to. They have multiple people they can go to, but they can also try different things out, and see. Hopefully they figure out what they want. I didn't realize the press.
Watch Dylan Gabriel be the sleeper that ends up being the shining star, and he ends up being better.
Next year, he's the confirmed starter. It's like,
and that's what I'm saying. Like the draft, this kind of shit always happens. So like the late round guys, that's what I was listening to New Heights. That's what they were talking about. Like with the draft, they're like, you just never know. Like the draft that there was a draft. I think Sam Darnold was one of the top quarterbacks. I think I said this the other day, and I forget who the other one was, but it was like there were two names, and that just says something right there. I don't even think he's in the league anymore. But it was Sam Darnold and somebody else, and they were like the big looked at quarterbacks that draft. And the other, who else ended up being the later round quarterbacks that draft was Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, big misses there.
And like Tom Brady, late round guy, and
Brock Purdy, last guy.
Yeah. Travis Kelce wasn't picked till near the end of the 4th round, and he's one of the best tight ends of all time. You know,
I feel like those things can happen though with tight ends, wide receivers in like later rounds because they don't always you don't always know. Some of them hit their peak early and then aren't as good later. Some of the ones that are drafted later develop and then become phenomenal in the NFL. So it's like,
but sometimes I mean a lot of the like. There's a lot of stud like running backs and wide receivers in college that
they don't always
they
translate.
get sought after in the draft, though.
Oh, that's true. But yeah, they don't always translate either. Like sometimes they hit their stride in college and then they can't be that guy later.
That's really that way with quarterbacks too.
It is.
But yeah, there's always just sleepers, and they both said like they had issues or there was like things surrounding them coming out of college. Like Jason was like, his were he was too quick to get angry, that he like lost his temper, that he drank too much.
Oh yeah.
And that he was too slow.
He's just like Bird except a football player.
And there was like that analyst things on him, and he didn't get picked till the 6th round, and he ended up being a great center, you know. In the NFL.
Oh, he's one of the best centers of all time.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, and he wasn't.
He's probably in the argument for the best.
And Travis, his things were, he was loud and flashy.
Yeah. Probably like arrogant.
He partied too much. And he got caught in college smoking weed, and he got in trouble for that. So that like got him docked in the draft. And he's like, you know what was real bullshit about that? He's like, is I fell probably 2 rounds in the draft over marijuana. He's like, and then you get in the league and you realize 75% of the NFL players are smoking marijuana.
Yeah. Well, and now, like, it seems foolish for people to get caught, and, you know, like, WWE doesn't, care anymore, the NFL doesn't, like, a lot of the sports leagues are softening their stance on marijuana consumption.
It was such a, like, even when we were kids, like, wrestlers and athletes getting caught with it was like, oh! It felt like they, like, made it feel like it was a big deal, you know what I mean? You're like, man, I don't know if I can look at my hero the same way anymore, you know? He got a weed. Got pulled over and got caught with weed.
Yeah. Well, that's
what
why.
Are we talking about?
That's why Van Damme and Sabu got. I think it was weed. I don't know if it was more than that too. But that's why they got pulled over. And then Van Damme in 2 days he had to lose both those belts. That's shitty.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was just weed though, because Vince, he probably wouldn't wanting to keep the belts on him for that long, anyways. I mean, Van Damme.
That was his out, like real quick.
Like, yeah, oh man.
He's alright. He's gonna freeze out of here, pal.
We can get the 2 belts off this fucking pothead.
Oh man.
But yeah, just drafting 2 high position players of the same position in the draft. You think?
I think it matters depending on what your needs were. I thought the Browns doing that was questionable. At least. I'm not saying it was the wrong move, but it definitely was questionable. They had some teams had a weird draft. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't think the Browns did horrible, honestly. Like, looking at it,
that was the weird
in
thing.
A whole, I was like, yeah, that was the weirdest thing that they did.
But they're looking for their guy, is what they're admitting, obviously. Well, Flacco's old.
Yeah.
And they don't want Deshaun.
Even though they paid out the ass for him, and now they're going to take the hit for it.
The Browns are just a self-loathing team.
There's a few of those in the NFL. I'm a fan of that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Raiders, they've been kind of in that pit for a while. Pete Carroll being there, though, now, that's kind of cool. They signed Ashton Genty. They got him in the draft.
No, the Raiders, I'm excited. This could be, but now I'm going to sound like a Jets fan. This year they're going to pop.
Jack Back, he's the wide receiver. He's going to be there, and they got who's there? They got another wide receiver over there. Pretty big one, don't they? I mean, they got Bowers, obviously.
Yeah.
Jacoby Myers. They could be a pretty decent offense.
Do they have Jacoby Myers? I thought somebody else did.
I think so. I think they got him now. The Patriots used to have him.
Hmm.
He's one of those players that's kind of everywhere too. It feels like. The Seahawks had a pretty good draft. I'm trying to think like what I saw, some of the the Jags. I don't like Travis Hunter's going to be a dynamic player for sure.
They need more than that though too.
But yeah, I don't think that it's going to change the tide in 1 year, and they gave up a bit to move up like 3 spaces.
Yeah.
In the draft.
Oh
so
yeah.
That's, hey.
Oh yeah. So okay. Probably of any position. I mean, it definitely depends on your needs. So I feel like it's probably fair. To me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if it was them doing that, then I would probably say overrated. But I also don't know.
It is always a little head scratching, but it's like, hey.
It's not a bad move to go after Shador after everybody passed on him, and then they were like, yeah. I don't think picking up Shador was necessarily a mistake at all. I'm just saying what they're doing is just like, do you guys know what you're doing, or are you gonna, you know what I mean? I think they're just move making has just been questioned.
And I think one of these quarterbacks now, once training camp hits and the season happens and like things happen during the season, one of these teams might be looking for a quarterback, and now they have trade bait with one of these young guys that they got in the draft.
Exactly. But yeah, I would say fair. You want me to throw you mine out here?
Yeah.
All right. Well, what I got is, how about this? We know the circumstances now, and we know he hasn't signed anywhere. So under the guise of what's going on and what we don't know, what we might know, what do you think of Aaron Rodgers playing another year? Is it overrated, underrated, or fair? Just
starting to feel less likely the longer time passes.
It seems like it's gonna be with the Steelers though, but I
That's
feel like
the
he's
only
gonna
option
just.
at
I
this
know,
point.
Unless he waits, but I feel like he still wants to play football that bad because he's ultimate. It's getting close, and he's like,
just
you need to
start
make
a podcast, bro. Just start a podcast. No, I mean,
he wants to play,
be mad about it, but I don't really know if. I don't think.
And this isn't for the Steelers. This is Aaron Rodgers playing another year in general. Under the circumstances of the insurity, are you gonna, you know what I mean? Are you gonna go to a team that's actually gonna be a contender? No, because if that is the case, your only option is the Steelers.
Yeah.
Unless you wait and then somebody gets hurt, but you're hoping somebody calls you if that happens. So it's like, unless he signs with the Steelers, he's probably not starting anywhere unless something of injury noteworthy happens in between now and then. Knock on wood, hopefully nobody gets hurt, but things always happen. It's football.
I'll say this. I don't think Aaron Rodgers' ceiling will ever be as high as it once was again. That said, I also don't necessarily want to see him go out the way it went last year.
You won that game, but that
So
wasn't
it's
the
like,
ending. You won.
But I don't really know the likelihood at this point. It's like, it has to be the Steelers if it's anybody. They didn't reach for a quarterback in the draft, so I don't know.
They may have talked before that too,
But that said, are they like really going to cash all their chips in on that? I mean, it is probably a 1-season ride because they're like, well, we can do this for a year, however it goes, and then we can look for a quarterback in the draft next year or something.
Yeah, which is going to be a better quarterback draft too. This was apparently a really weak draft overall. I mean, there were some great players, but apparently it was like not, some of the big time star players that usually are.
I like Aaron Rodgers. I hope he plays one more year.
I do too. I just question.
I don't know if it's really.
I'm conflicted about it for sure.
I think that. Do you remember Rookie of the Year? That movie, Rookie of the Year, like Gary Busey's character in that movie when he was the legend of a pitcher. He was like fantastic back in his day, but he just was out there too long, and the Cubs are a horrible team, but he was still like the all-star pitcher that they had to prance out there, but he was in his 40s, and he couldn't throw the gas anymore, and they were just hitting fucking dingers off him and stuff, and it was like Henry was like kind of let down because he's like, man, this is my fucking hero, and he's going out on his back out there, you know? That's kind of how I feel like Aaron Rodgers, if he's coming back for one more year, the potential of how it could go.
I guess he's just banking it on maybe at least a better season, because at least the defense and some of the stuff in Pittsburgh in that sense is stable, he could at least come out of this season at the least looking better than that season just was. Whether he's like 8-9, 9-8, I don't know if he'll win more than 10 games at most. We'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. But like, I wish he would, but I don't know how it's gonna go. Pittsburgh could be a disaster too, or it could go pretty fucking well. Like, I don't know, but
yeah.
I mean, it's weird because Pittsburgh's failed to make a lot of good moves too.
I mean, they got DK Metcalf and George Pickens.
Well, yeah, but they haven't done shit in like so many years.
That's the thing, they got like good receivers now over there too, and no quarterback to speak for at the moment.
Well, and that's got to be the only place. So if he really wants to play and have a starting job, that's where you go. But I'm conflicted just because I'm like, does it just feel like he's settling on this because this is the only option? But then it's like, I know, and then I'm like, I don't hate him. I just like other teams more than them. But I'm also not a Steelers fan.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know, but I also don't want to see that be the ending if he can still play, and you know what I mean? Like, if he waits around, he might not get a chance to play. I don't know. So I'm like, you're not left with many options if you want to play. So.
Yeah, I mean,
it would be interesting to see him there. I mean, what if they fucking got in? Get in the playoffs again under Aaron? Like, that'd be wild. Like, just getting in the playoffs again for his last year. It could happen because the Steelers are a lot. That's the thing. It's like, I don't like them much either, but like
they always get in.
They are stable enough to be able to, make a run at. You know what I mean? So that would
squeak in.
Either way, that would look like a better Aaron end. You know. So I have more faith that would be, and I don't like him like you, but I also it would be kind of nice to see him end with a more stable organization and look good during his last run. Then the Jets just have no fucking idea what they're doing either. Don't feel too bad, but those teams, the Jets and the Browns, like what the hell are they doing?
Yeah, playing football.
They're trying to, but
they sign like a really good defensive player once every 5-6 years or so, and that's about all they can speak for.
They just have no idea what they're doing.
That's like both those franchises. So it's just like the likelihood of Aaron Rodgers playing another year, or
it sounds like he's going to,
or just how I feel about him playing another year.
That another year in general, no matter who he ends up with. But these are his circumstances with the whole Steelers thing. If nobody gets hurt, he won't have a team, or if he, you know what I mean? Like, the circumstance that he's in currently, how you feel about it, overrated, underrated, or fair, with what the media's been telling us?
I think that it's fair. I think that there's a likely chance he ends up on the Steelers. I mean,
that's what I heard from things. It's not confirmed, but it sounds more likely than not.
I don't know what else they're going to end up doing at this point unless they try to trade for somebody.
Not unless, somebody makes a move or they need him or a guy.
If they do make a giant trade, that'd be wild. But I don't really know if that'll happen.
I want to see him play as a football player another year, but it's like, it's just kind of the situation. You just wonder how it's going to go.
A little more jumpy, like not as easy breezy, just going with the flow, lacing them right into the seams like old Aaron Rodgers. He had those moments last year, for sure. He had those moments, but
once he was comfortable,
he didn't he wasn't ever consistently like that throughout the season. I think part of that was he was running for his life more than he was ever with the Packers.
The Achilles, he's nervous.
But also
that's a big
too.
part of it.
He's older now, and he's coming off an Achilles injury,
Yeah.
so he's a lot more like
that's the big reason.
skeptical.
He's like, well, and he's old. He's like, I don't want that shit to happen again. So I'm, trying to get it out. He's kind of the whole thing's a little conflicted. I just hope I wouldn't if it came down to it, and like he's got a better opportunity with a potentially better season than what he had with the Jets. I wouldn't mind seeing it. I'm not gonna be a Steelers fan, but I will hope for the best for him over there if he does go there, and I will make sure I do watch their games more, which they'll probably be on because it'll be airing and it's the Steelers, so it's like those will probably be pretty prime games.
Depending on how they do.
But well, either way,
the
the organization is a huge fan base though. The
Yeah.
Steelers. So
that's true too, and they're never really.
That's one of the big reasons.
Terrible.
No, so that would definitely be. They would make sure their games were like more. I'm not saying the top, obviously, but they would be more marquee than some for sure.
Yeah. Well, want to get into my last one here?
Yeah, might as well.
What do you think about a good old egg roll?
I think we've done this one before.
Damn.
No, we can do it again.
It's probably been a long time.
No, it has. No, it has. I think either. I mean, you know what's funny is either unless I did it, but I'm like, if we did, you're more likely to say egg roll.
Yeah, probably
Because
I
you're
love
like,
it.
oh damn, no. Fucking,
No,
I almost swear like I'm 98%.
I mean, at this point, I doubt
thing before.
that the viewers remember or the listeners remember.
No,
so
they
it's like whatever.
Well, and it definitely wasn't.
But I was kind of thinking that ahead of time. I'm like,
yeah.
This sounds a little bit familiar, but I was like scrolling through my list of what I had written down and I didn't see it. So
I think
was
it was early.
So yeah, it had
early.
to probably be pretty damn early.
But yeah, it wasn't with this fucking, really nice and well-spoken crisp, equipment.
Yeah,
so
we can talk
over.
about the egg roll.
Let's get the point over. The point, egg rolls. I think they're pretty good. I don't really ever buy them. It's not one of those things that like.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people do.
I wouldn't be even opposed to doing that, but I would feel more comfortable getting one of those fresh at like a Chinese place or like a whatever. You know what I'm saying? Instead of, I'm not saying they'd be bad, but egg rolls in general. I mean, do you trust them ever at the gas stations?
No, I mean,
No?
I've bought them.
Would you trust them? What about
before.
QT?
I bought them at a QT before.
Yeah.
On the roller. They didn't kill me.
QT is less sketchy than a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. They got like the kitchen and everything
Yeah.
in QT, so it's a little more like
You can trust the food.
They make food here,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm bigger on egg rolls than like most people though, because I buy the frozen ones and shit too.
Yeah.
And I remember in school, we'd have egg rolls sometimes at like lunch and stuff. And I would like get them and nobody'd get them and people would give me shit for getting them.
I think they're good though.
Like, dude, why you get the egg roll? I'm like, because I don't want to get fucking pizza for the 58th time. Like,
dude, no, those cheeseburgers wrapped in foil in the junior high were really fucking good. You remember those?
Yeah.
Those were good.
Those were good. Because the bun would stay like.
Yeah, it was like warm.
It was
nice.
Still fluffy.
They had some nice candy and a bunch of like really good sides and different stuff you could pick up from like in junior high and everything. And then some of that in high school, and then we got shittier lunches for a while. Like I understood and I actually agreed with what the Obamas were doing with that. Like, oh, let's make it a little healthier, but like they didn't go about it like the right way. You know what I mean? Like it just instantly made a lot of people's lunches just shitty.
Everybody's like,
this shit's fucking cardboard. It's not.
Dude.
It wasn't good quality. That's the thing. It's like I understand the agenda because honestly,
the pretzels
our
definitely
country,
got way shitty.
Our country, like health needs to be a bigger priority. As if I'm in any position to lecture anybody about health. I'm not lecturing though, but honestly, that's the truth. People need to be in like, you know, we need to do something about it.
Yeah.
And but I don't think it was like, because the student lunches, people were just pissed off about that. They're like, this is when I get to eat my shit.
I mean, but also that's the way to ensure, if you're going to try to influence positive eating into the youth, it's going to have to be through the school lunch, because that's the only meal you influence.
Well, that's true, because the other thing is, you don't have to get it. You can bring your lunch.
Yeah.
You know? So, some of the stuff did get 100% shittier, though.
It did. I remember being disappointed by it at first. I was like, man, because I used to get the pretzels with cheese, and then they quit serving the cheese, which was like, why would I even get this dry? And the pretzels got worse. It's like, why would I want this dry ass fucking pretzel when there's no cheese? I'm not paying $1.75 for this shit.
Oh man. Yeah, we need to be more health conscious and everything, but that was just a weird. It didn't feel like
they took out all the soda and stuff from the vending machines.
It didn't really feel like it lasted that long though, because they're the food was kind of back to what it was after a little while.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know how long that was actually but it was what the fuck is it? It was cardboard pizza. It's what the hell is this?
I remember I used to always get one of those berry Propel waters at lunch, and I had a gym on the block days, and we'd come back from lunch, and I'd have the Propel water, and Coach shot damn near every block day would be that's a good choice, Elijah. Getting the Propel water, that's a good choice in the middle of the day for you. I'm like, thanks. It's just you told me this last week, man.
Yeah, I mean, he probably drank them.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's why. Did I answer? No, I didn't. No, I liked, and I thought about getting them. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm maybe it would take me a while to finish a box of them or whatever, but I do enjoy anytime I get them.
Yeah.
But I'll just get them. I love it when they come with something you already get, and you're like, fuck yeah, I got a few egg rolls, too.
And they're the easiest way, I feel for me to eat a lot of vegetables and cabbage at once.
Yeah.
It's wrapped up in this nice little roll, put a little soy sauce in there. Oh man.
I might go a little bit underrated, honestly.
Yeah. I think they are too.
I don't really think some people don't like it, but I don't think they get dramatically shit on, but they're better than what they get credit for.
Yeah, I think they don't necessarily get shit on, but I don't think a lot of people really eat them.
Yeah.
Everybody knows about them, but they're not
Well, there's different ones too. There's chicken ones.
I mean, people probably
put different shit in there.
If they go to the Chinese restaurant, they get them sometimes, maybe. But people talk way more about crab rangoon and stuff.
It sounds so good. Sushi AI.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah, sushi's pretty damn good.
Oh man. All right, you want me to throw my last one out there?
Yep.
What do you think about hard shell tacos?
Overrated.
I would probably agree with that for sure.
I mean, if that's the only option, I'll take it because I like tacos. So I'm not gonna turn it down if somebody's like, "Oh, we got tacos," and you can go make your own, and all they got's the hard shell. Fuck it, I'll do it. But it's yeah, I've had so many experiences with them where you take the first bite and then it cracks down the whole bottom of it, or the side falls off or some shit. Fully
agree that it's overrated.
Yeah, soft tacos are definitely easier.
Mm-hmm. That's why that
way easier to control. You can kind of even fold the top over a little when you eat them.
It's so good, the texture. That's another reason why the cheesy gordita crunch is just absolute king. It fucking Taco Bell, because they got the hard shell wrapped in the soft shell, and the texture is so satisfying. Take a bite out of, and then they got that sauce in there and stuff. That's by far my favorite item there. I mean, Taco Bell's got a lot of good shit, but that is number one. That's been number one for a long time.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's the way to do it. I mean, it's really nothing against even the flavor of hard shell tacos. They're just hard to eat. So if you wrap it inside of a soft shell taco,
yeah, it's ironic because it's not really even built for what it's used for.
yeah.
You know,
And they can fucking stab the inside of your mouth sometimes and
Yeah.
stuff. Like
yeah,
a soft shell taco's never gonna do that.
no,
You can like really like, oh my god, like actually stab
I would
the
probably
roof of
say
your mouth.
hard shells overrated and soft shells fair.
Oh, yeah, that's what I said.
If
too.
soft shell was a thing.
I think more and more people like that. For some reason, the standard for tacos forever was hard shell.
Yeah.
That was just, that's what the taco was. And like, I feel like more and more people now are like, soft shell is like the way to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, and sometimes like restaurants, you know, like nice, like old school Mexican places or whatever, like they have the smaller shell and it's, you know, that's not too bad because it's really not a lot anyway. You just take a few bites, you know, and it's gone. Take a few bites. But like
Even the minis, unless they're folded close, then I'll
Yeah.
do hard shell. But the minis, I would even prefer soft shell.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. Soft cookies over hard for sure.
Yeah. Hard cookies are decent if you have milk, but that's like the only time, really. Otherwise, they're just too dry. But yeah.
What's your favorite style of egg? Raw? No.
It's probably still scrambled,
Really?
I would say.
Mm.
More than likely. I mean, over easy's not bad. But
Yeah. Or like, because sunny side up's where you actually have the yolk sitting up, right?
Yeah,
And
the
then-
sunny side ups, it's a little runny and raw still on top because the yolk's still
Yeah.
like
That one's
a
not
little
bad.
uncooked
I like
up
that
there.
one.
Over easy's like
But
the
Over
egg
Easy's
itself's all cooked, but the
inside.
yolk is not popped. Like
Yeah.
when you cut into it,
That's what I normally make them over easy.
yeah, those are good.
The sunny side up makes it look like such a, like it looks
Yeah,
like your breakfast has got elegance to it.
yeah, that's like the classic look of the egg
Mm-hmm.
of like the breakfast next to the bacon.
Oh man.
Yeah, hard shell tacos, man, come on.
No, they're definitely overrated. Fully agree with that one. Well, it's getting to be about that time, I think, huh? Unfortunately,
so.
because I'm like, we could probably talk another little while about food, but we don't need to.
It's always food discussion at the end of these
It
episodes.
is. It is. It might have been a little bit since we wrapped up with it, though.
Mhm.
Who knows? Well, good Walking Dead edition tonight.
Yeah,
Kind of looked at, picked apart the seasons.
dove into it a little bit. It's always
So-
nice. It's been a minute since we've had a Walking Dead kind of episode.
Yeah, for sure. We spent a good amount of time on it tonight, though. It'd be interesting to rank them and try to see where we really thought every season would go, though.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of with Kyle where he says, you know, when he's watching certain seasons, he's like, no, this feels just like the best one. Like, this is the fucking one that's, you know, you hold close. But then you get into different eras and different groups of the, you know, of the show and everything. And you're like, no, you're like, it's tough.
Yeah, because
The
the show
seasons are-
really, all the seasons are so different, and the show really does have so many eras.
Yeah, it does. Oh, man. Well, we'll see how Dead City plays out.
Yeah,
First episode of that.
pretty interesting.
Season 2. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you on the next episode. Thank you for listening. We hope everybody's doing well out there. And we will see you on 177. Take care.